So 10 years ago today, I premiered this piece, Only the Words Themselves Mean What They Say, for flute and voice, with text by Lydia Davis alongside flutist Erin Lesser. And since then, I have played this piece about 100 more times, almost always with Erin. It eventually became part of a much larger work called Ipsa Dixit that features some of my other wet ink collaborators. And I just kind of wanted to make a 10-year commemorative video with a little analysis and behind the scenes stuff in case it's interesting or useful to other composers or performers or composer performers or anyone. This ended up being a really important piece for me and taught me a lot about how to push myself and how to be open to collaboration and to new experiences. So I hope you enjoy. And let's dig in. So it all starts with the text. In the summer of 2010, I knew I wanted to write a piece for me and Erin to play, and I was on the hunt for words when I discovered the work of Lydia Davis. And I was really taken with her work and was trying to decide which of two books to buy, book A or book B. And I decided to go with book A, but there was this one text in book B that just completely captivated me. I had to have it. So what I decided to do was buy book A and just copy down this one text, Go Away, in book B so that I could take it with me. But I hadn't really thought about how long it actually takes to transcribe text by hand. So I had this strange experience of standing there in the Strand bookstore, scribbling this text on the back of a bar napkin or whatever. And by the time I finished writing down even the first sentence, I was completely hooked. When he says, "Go away and don't come back," you are hurt by the words, even though you know he does not mean what the words say. Or rather, you think he probably means go away because he is so angry at you he does not want you anywhere near him right now, but you are quite sure he does not want you to stay away. He must want you to come back, either soon or later, depending on how quickly he may grow less angry during the time you are away, how he may remember other less angry feelings he often has for you that may soften his anger now. So yeah, I bought both books. Now that I had this amazing text, it was time to make the setting. I started by just improvising a lot and reading through the text and singing through it. And then once I had a general sense of the pacing I wanted and the techniques and the trajectory, I made a video to kind of lock it in and remind myself. Near, with a multiphonic.
He means low flute under this. All the anger meant by someone who says such words and means... Erin says that into the flute.
This ended up being a really good way for me to test things out and kind of see how they might work with the flute or how they might work in a more fleshed out version in the final piece.
Mean what the words say, that you should not come back ever. What the words say, that you should not come back ever. He must want you to come back.
He must want you to come back.
He does not mean... Even though only...
A lot of the stuff that I came up with in this kind of solo working process remained pretty intact in the final piece. And some of it didn't.
It is not the anger in these words that hurts you. I don't know.
Since I was the singer, I ended up internalizing a lot of the material as I was composing it. And then as the composer, I had to keep refining and refining it as I was practicing it as the performer. So I discovered this kind of cool feedback loop that you can create with yourself if you're a composer performer that ends up strengthening both aspects. So the next step was flute. At this point, I'd been in wet ink for a few years and I'd worked with Erin. I had a somewhat clear idea of the gestural language, and I had some specific flute stuff I wanted to have happen.
Erin is singing into the flute and using fingerings to change pitches. Now let's do what the words say. What the words say.
There were just a lot of things that I could never have come up with on my own.
You were doing that low thing when I first asked for low sounds. It wasn't even the singing, it was just like a flutter. Right. Okay, so that's just you're covering the whole thing, so you
Just flutter tonguing into the flute.
Uh-huh.
These relationships are so important. There's just so many things I have in my musical vocabulary because of the people that I've been lucky enough to be surrounded with. So now that Erin and I kind of knew what we were doing, it was time for notation. This movement in particular is very gestural and event-based. The score is open in some ways, and there's a lot of timings rather than meter, a lot of extended techniques and new developed notation. And because the material and the texture is so focused on noise and on speech, I wanted an underlying pitch structure that was just really simple and basic. So for example, this very first sentence, the material is organized around an ascending chromatic scale.
When he says, oh, go away and don't come back, you are hurt by the words, even though you know he does not mean what the words say. Or rather, you think he probably means, go away, because he is so angry at you, he does not want you anywhere near him right now. Although you are quite sure he does to want you to stay away. He must want you to come. Back either soon or later, depending on how quickly he may grow less angry during the time you are away, how he may remember other less angry feelings he often has for you that may soften his anger now.
There are two other movements in this piece. They are also Lydia Davis texts. The second movement is the slow one, is the tragedy. This is a text called Head Heart. And like Go Away, it also wrestles with our inability to kind of short circuit the connection between our thoughts and our feelings. But in this one, it's kind of more allegorical and brutal. Head and heart are actually the speakers in this piece. Because the story of the text is so elemental, I wanted to ground the material in something really inexorable, just some kind of physical feature of music. So this piece is all based on harmonics of the bass flute. Just something that has inevitability and circularity. And then when the voice comes in, it imitates the bass flute harmonics, which gives it real fragility. It's really a heartbreaking poem.
Getting to know your body.
The last movement is my scherzo. This text also kind of has to do with how or whether we can control our inner landscape, but it has a goofier take.
If your eyeballs move, this means that you're thinking or about to start thinking.
Eyeballs is a funny word. So in this movement, I wanted to construct a kind of weird artificial language for myself and Erin that would be off the wall, but also kind of officious and have some sounds that we recognize and some complete absurdities. This movement and the whole piece ends with this part that I thought was going to be this like hilarious slapstick moment where there's this kind of motor rhythm that starts and stops. One of my most vivid memories from the premiere is of this moment because since it has these silences, I had the opportunity to kind of check in with myself for the first time in the piece, which is not necessarily a good thing to do while you're on stage. So I just remember these cavernous silences and being up there with my heart pounding. Is anyone finding this funny? I thought this was gonna be funny. That's a wrap on this little 10-year anniversary video. I'm really grateful for this piece and for all of the places it's taken me, all the concerts I got to sing it at, for how it developed me as a singer and as a composer, for fun times with Erin, for the ability to interact with these texts that I love. And I'm really happy to see other people performing it. So if you've ever done it yourself, thank you so much. It's really been great to see this piece take on new meaning for other people. So here's to probably singing it 100 more times at some point. And thanks for watching.